A Toronto community is on edge after an early morning shooting during a home invasion near Avenue Road and Glencairn. Good afternoon. Police say 5 masked suspects broke into the home around 2:15 this morning when they were confronted by a man inside the home.
The resident was then shot in the leg during the altercation and was rushed to hospital. He's expected to survive. Police are now on the hunt for suspects. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live with the very latest on the investigation. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Well, as you can imagine, area residents are shaken up as Toronto police investigate a violent home invasion that took place here in North Toronto overnight. Now, police say that they were called to this area just after 2 a.m. to respond to shots of gunfire. This home is on Glencairn near Avenue. When they arrived, police say they learned that 5 masked suspects had broken into a home demanding cash. Now, the family was home at the time of the break-in, and a struggle ensued between a resident and the suspects. An adult male was shot during the altercation and was transported to hospital in serious but non-life-threatening condition. Here is more from area residents.
It's terrifying. It's actually terrifying what's happened to Toronto, because I grew up in this city and it's not safe.
I think everyone in the community is extremely concerned, and it is time for them to step up the enforcement. There needs to be increased police presence in the neighborhood. The politicians need to step up.
It's a home invasion. They didn't try and get the car, so I don't know what they were doing. Usually these are related to auto theft, but in this case, the information I have, they weren't after the car. And, unfortunately, the resident got shot.
I'm shocked. I cannot believe that happened in my streets.
Now, a friend of the family tells CTV News that the person who was shot was the home's owner, and he is in hospital at this point. However, he is expected to make a full recovery, they tell us. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. A man's in hospital after an early morning shooting in the Jane Finch area. It happened at an apartment building just after 2:30 in the morning. Police say they found a man in the hallway who'd been shot in the leg. He was taken to hospital with serious injuries, but is expected to survive. No suspect descriptions have been released, and police are asking anyone who might have information to contact them or Crime Stoppers. And a man's been seriously injured in a stabbing downtown. Now, police were called to the Bay and Front area just before 9:30 this morning. The victim initially left the area but was located and taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. A suspect was taken into custody.
Turning to tragic news out of Mississauga as police are investigating the death of a 4-year-old child found on the ground outside a condo building. Police say they were called to the building in the area of City Centre Drive and Duke of York Boulevard near Square One Monday, just after 4:30 in the afternoon. Investigators say there are reports the child may have fallen from an apartment balcony. Police say the child was taken to hospital where they died.
Police have released images of 3 men wanted in a downtown assault last month. Investigators say around 3 a.m. on February 8th, 3 male victims noticed the suspects touching their belongings in an establishment near King and Spadina. They told the men to leave, but were attacked outside a short time later, leaving 1 victim with serious injuries. Anyone with information is asked to contact police.
A Toronto police officer is facing serious criminal charges in Peel Region. 39-year-old Farhan Ali, pictured on the left of the screen, has been charged with 3 counts of sexual assault, 3 counts of assault, and 4 counts of mischief. Police have not provided an account of what led to these charges, while Toronto police say Ali has been suspended with pay.
In Durham Region, a $15,000 reward is now being offered as investigators try to find the killer of an Oshawa man gunned down in a pawn shop parking lot nearly 3 years ago. Michael Nigris was shot in the head right after finishing his shift at Cash Connections near King Street West and Park Road South in Oshawa, March 30th of 2023. Police say the killing was targeted and deliberate. Investigators say a stolen black Ford F-150 Raptor believed to be connected to the murder was later found abandoned on a dead end on Dundee Avenue in Oshawa.
Hundreds of hours of video have been reviewed, witnesses have been interviewed, and multiple investigative avenues have been pursued. Importantly, our investigation has uncovered nothing in Michael's personal or professional life that would explain why he was targeted. Michael was simply leaving work when his life was tragically taken from him.
Police earlier released photos of the two suspects they believe were involved. Both have ties to Toronto, particularly the Keele and Lawrence area. Anyone who has information about the suspects is asked to get in touch with police.
Still to come, the latest on the war in the Middle East. We'll have more on the continued violence and Canada's efforts to bring citizens home. That's coming up a little later in the newscast.
First, the city and much of the GTA is on flood watch today with significant rain in the forecast as the snow continues to melt.
Toronto is under a yellow weather warning with up to 40 millimeters of rain possible by day's end. There's already been water pooling on many roads and highways throughout the city, and the rain is expected to get heavier this afternoon. Let's bring in CTV's Sean Lytton, who joins us live now, and certainly the heavy rain impacting the morning commute, Sean.
It did, Michelle and Nathan, and it's picked up just in the last little while because we got a little bit of a break in the mid-morning hours, but very early this morning, as early as 5 o'clock this morning, you may have been woken up by the sound of rain on the roof or thunder showers. You could hear them outside. Many millimeters falling, and that led to a lot of pooling and ponding. Some areas of the 401 east of the city had lane closures due to flooding, and we saw it all in and around the city, so drivers were asked to use caution. There were backups, of course. The City of Toronto being very active in trying to clear catch basins and ensure that no flooding could happen or minimal flooding to any basements in the area. One of the big problems being is it has been so cold throughout this winter that the ground hasn't had enough time to thaw, even though there was a couple warm days. So a lot of that water is running off, going into the streets and creating those puddles that we saw this morning. We did speak to a few people just a little while ago about what this rain was like after a couple days of warmth. Here's what they had to say.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy coming into Toronto this morning, but, you know, it's spring. We have to get used to it.
It's not spring yet.
Okay. I guess it's not spring, but it's going to be spring soon.
I just deal with it. What am I supposed to feel? It's raining. I'm out here. I'm walking. I deal with it.
Do you think winter is done with us, or do you think we got a lot more of this stuff?
One more week.
One more week?
Yeah. Mark my words. Have a great day.
So we got that reprieve for the last couple days where it was nice and warm. Now we're getting this cold rain today, and it looks like it's going to get even colder and even worse as we go in through the week. So winter definitely not done with us. It's just a bit of a wild ride for the time being. Reporting live, I'm Sean Lytton. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Let's continue with the forecast. I guess we've been spoiled over the past few days with the mild temperatures. Now we're talking about the rain and also cooler temperatures coming in. And with that, rain brings a lot of concern. The ice cleared today, and maybe they flooded it. I'm guessing maybe the rain is preventing people from getting out there. Lindsay.
Yeah, you know, Nathan, we took a look at Nathan Phillips Square yesterday, and that ice rink had a big layer of water on top of it. So, yeah, a lot of melting the last couple of days, and now we are getting the falling rain. As Sean mentioned, we had round one this morning. Now we've got round two moving in for the afternoon. Widespread heavy rain. We've got freezing rain in many areas, some mixing or ice pellets for the areas in purple, and there's a lot more of this coming for the rest of the afternoon. We remain under a rainfall warning here in the city of Toronto. Some communities like Midland, Orillia, and north into areas like Bracebridge and Gravenhurst have changed from a freezing rain warning to a rainfall warning, so that is good news for that part of the province. Easterly winds not overly strong right now. It is still cool at +3 this hour at Pearson Airport, but Windsor is at 15 degrees right now, and we too are expecting a little surge in warmth for this afternoon, maybe even climbing to 15 degrees ourselves. But after this, some colder air is going to return. It's going to be quite cold next week, and before we even get there, we've got some snow to talk about. So all of that is coming up in your weather forecast. For now, Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, the province is launching a new spending account program for elementary school and for homeroom teachers.
Each teacher will get a gift card worth $750 to get school supplies that are much needed. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has more details on this. Siobhan.
Well, this is something the Premier has been promising for many months now. He says he's encountered teachers at places like Dollarama digging into their own wallets to supply their classrooms with things like markers and toilet paper. Here's more of what we heard from Doug Ford.
We're going to announce today a purchasing card, and Paul, you can elaborate more on it. But every teacher, every elementary teacher in the province is going to have something like this. This is a $750 supply card, so you can buy supplies for the classroom. And That's going to help out tremendously.
Some of the logistics here is that later today, teachers are getting an email that's asking them for their input about what kinds of things they'd like to buy with these cards. The government has an idea, but they want to hear directly from teachers. Then the government will stock up a data bank or a warehouse, rather, with those school supplies. In late summer, there will be a website that teachers will be able to use a unique PIN to be able to go into that warehouse run by the government, Supply Ontario, and actually purchase things for their classroom. The cost of all this is $66 million. This will be a program that continues into next school year as well. For the moment, this is only for elementary teachers. I asked the government whether or not they'd contemplated high school teachers. They say that might be extended to the secondary level at some point down the road. We have heard some early response from teachers today. They say that this new funding is nice, but they say it doesn't stop the pain that they are seeing in classrooms with not enough funding to support student needs. Reporting live from Etobicoke, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. There is political turbulence around the island airport as the Premier says the province will be taking over the city's role in managing the facility.
However, the move is being met with pushback from City Council. CTV's Mike Walker has the details.
Only turboprop planes can fly out of Billy Bishop Airport, but jets may be on the horizon, with the Ford government intending to take over Toronto's stake in the island airport.
This is going to be an economic driver. It'll create thousands of jobs.
A plan that includes extending the runway. Waterfront residents see one benefit.
It's more convenient, especially for people living in and around downtown or the east side, because YYZ is a little bit further like west.
But in the same breath, worry about the possible disruption jets may cause.
I would definitely not want more noise pollution.
You want to run and you want to sit around on the, like by the parks and stuff, and it's not going to be nice, right? Like having loud planes landing.
And many we spoke to have a lot of questions about the scope of this proposal.
The economics of it perhaps suggests the opportunity for demand that there would be an expansion, but then how does that balance with the potential negative impact on residents?
The Premier's vision includes smaller, quieter jets, not 747s. But Doug Ford can't say where he'd draw the line on size and sound.
We have to consult. Again, we'll see the noise levels between the jets and the props.
Doug Ford says he revealed the plans to the mayor last week during a meeting at his house.
I was very straightforward with her that we will be taking over the airport.
Essentially expropriation, pushing Toronto out of the three-way agreement that governs the airport with the federal government and Toronto Port Authority.
They have the power to do so, and I have not seen any concrete plans.
At City Hall, councillors expressing opposition. Some were not mincing words.
This isn't your toy box to play with, Doug. It's unacceptable, it's anti-democratic, and it's wrong.
What the Premier has shared today is unacceptable.
They plan to fight back.
Any decisions about the future of the island airport, of our waterfront, and our downtown communities has to be done openly and publicly through a transparent process.
Waterfront residents hoping they will have a say.
The implications on ecology, people living in these neighborhoods, should be considered.
Mike Walker, CTV News.
Speaking of the waterfront, the city is asking for help choosing the names of its new electric ferries. The city says its existing ferries are between 61 and 90 years old, and they are preparing for the first of the new vessels to arrive late this fall, with commissioning taking place next year. A mix of community members and staff came up with a number of potential names. The city's shortlist includes ideas like Blue Current, Great Lake Dancer, and Lady of the Keys, just to name a few. Residents can vote for their favorites on the city's website.
Toronto Police is marking Fraud Prevention Month, and they're providing tips to the general public.
They're out with a warning about an increase of scams of this nature. Let's get to CTV's John Musselman, who was at today's event, and he joins us now with more details. John.
Well, Michelle, we heard from detectives today who talked about how sophisticated this is all becoming because of AI. We'll show you some video. Of course, a lot of people are posting information online on all kinds of different sites, and what criminals are doing is using that information against us. And in some cases, they're using AI to replicate a voice, maybe of a family member or of a banking representative, to try to scam you out of thousands of dollars. So what police are saying is people need to be careful, pause before they hear from anyone who calls them claiming to be someone in a family or a bank or a financial institution. And this sophistication is just getting worse, and it's costing millions and millions of dollars in losses to many people that we've seen in stories over the years. Here's what the detective had to tell us just a short time ago.
My key message today is this: fraud prevention is no longer only about protecting your information. It's about verifying identity. Much of the information criminals use is readily available through past data breaches, phishing attempts, or publicly accessible sources. So if someone contacts you urgently about money, personal information, or access to your accounts, pause and verify. Remember, do not rely on caller ID. Do not rely on voice recognition. Do not rely on familiarity, because all of these things can be manipulated.
And that includes what you're posting on social media sites, detectives say, because that will be used, and in many cases has been used, against people to scam them. So people have to be careful of what they're doing online. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Now, Toronto police are launching a new artificial intelligence voice triage system. The service says the system is designed to assist callers on the non-emergency line and will manage high call volumes. Police say the system will gather basic information before directing people online to a partner agency or to a communications operator. Officials say if there is any indication of an emergency, the call will be immediately transferred to 911.
The search continues for 2 suspects after shots were fired at the U.S. Consulate early yesterday morning. Investigators say 2 people pulled up in a white Honda CR-V around 4:30 in the morning, got out of the vehicle and fired several shots before getting back in and driving away. Nobody was injured. Now, this is surveillance images of the suspect vehicle. RCMP say the case is being treated as a national security incident, and security is being reviewed at diplomatic sites across the country.
And looking south of the border, the U.S. Secret Service is investigating after a vehicle crashed into a barricade near the White House early this morning. Officials say the driver of the car is being questioned. D.C. police say no injuries have been reported from this crash, as U.S. President Donald Trump was thought to be in the White House at the time of the crash. The Secret Service said various entrances and streets around the White House are temporarily closed as they continue their investigation.
The United States and Israel's war on Iran has entered its 12th day and continues to spread across the Middle East, with Israeli airstrikes targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon. The U.S. is vowing more intense strikes this week as Prime Minister Carney declares Canada will never participate in the conflict. CTV's Scott Hirsch joins us now with more details on this. Scott, with the conflict now in its 12th day, what's been the latest response from Canada on the war?
Nathan, good afternoon. First, let's start with Mark Carney's clarification for Canada's stance on the situation in Iran, the stance in the Middle East, as he's been forced to clarify after he came under a lot of criticism for what has been called Canada's shifting response, at least initially, to the situation in the Middle East, and also came under significant criticism for missing a debate on Monday. As you mentioned, Carney now saying Canada will never participate in the U.S.-Israeli offensive. This, in the meantime, we're getting updated numbers from Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand and Global Affairs Canada on the situation for Canadians in the Middle East, with more than 110,000 registered as part of the Registration of Canadians Abroad system. And according to Global Affairs Canada, some 7,000 Canadians have returned to this country since the conflict began back on February 28th. And since that time, the government of Canada has helped facilitate the departure of nearly 1,000 Canadians and permanent residents from the region to a safe third country. And there are more planned departures by land from Bahrain and flights from Beirut in the coming days. Now, this, of course, can all change at a moment's notice due to the volatile situation, Nathan, in the Middle East and the potential for ongoing closures to airspace with the ongoing strikes by the U.S. and Israel and the counterstrikes by Iran, not just targeting Israel, but as we've seen over the past 12 days, targeting other Gulf states as well.
You know, so we've seen the price of oil and gas go up. Now the price of fertilizer for farmers has also gone up. How significant is it for the Strait of Hormuz to actually reopen?
Global energy concerns are mounting. You mentioned specifically the situation for farmers and the cost of fertilizer. About 30% of fertilizers around the world come from the Strait of Hormuz, and so any increased costs for farmers now could ultimately mean more costs for consumers down the line, not just when it comes to what they have to buy and their increased costs for things like fertilizer, but also significant questions about transportation. When energy prices soared, ultimately raises the cost of pretty much everything that needs fuel. Here's one food economist and the prediction on what it might mean for what we have to buy potentially at the grocery store.
I think we could start seeing these changes at the grocery store relatively quickly. Because produce is a perishable product, it's not in storage, it's being brought up regularly. And so the increased cost will be passed on to consumers, I expect, within a week or two.
Now, as I mentioned, with global energy concerns mounting today, the International Energy Agency has announced that the 32 members, including Canada, which Canada is a member of, have unanimously agreed to release some 400 million barrels of oil from emergency reserves to address the market disruptions in the oil. As you mentioned, the Strait of Hormuz is an incredibly important thoroughfare and pathway for oil. Some 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas goes through the Strait of Hormuz, which is essentially blocked right now because of the risk of Iranian strikes targeting vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, which typically sees thousands of ships pass through the channel every month, Nathan. So there is a significant disruption. And so the International Energy Agency has announced today that its member countries, including Canada, have voted to unanimously release millions, hundreds of millions of barrels to help stabilize the disruptions in the oil markets.
All right, understood. CTV's Scott Hurst in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Iran may have a new supreme leader, but reports are raising questions about his condition. Billboards showing the image of Mujtaba Khamenei have started appearing in Tehran, but he hasn't been seen in public since he was named to succeed his father Ali Sunday. Ali Khamenei was killed in an airstrike as the U.S. and Israel began their attacks. Unnamed Iranian officials told the New York Times the 56-year-old was injured in the same strike that killed his father and suffered injuries to his legs, but he's said to be alert and sheltering somewhere secure with limited communication. Now, despite comments from Iran's president saying strikes would be scaled back on Gulf countries, those attacks have continued. In the United Arab Emirates, 2 Iranian drones struck near the Dubai International Airport, injuring 4 people this morning. Flights are still running. And this comes as the UN Security Council is set to vote on 2 resolutions today, one condemning attacks on Gulf states and one by Russia condemning attacks against, quote, all civilians without naming any countries. The Security Council hasn't met since an emergency session was called when the war broke out.
And after some huge jumps in gas prices since the start of the Middle East conflict, some relief is expected at the pumps tomorrow. Dan McTagg with Canadians for Affordable Energy says the price of regular gas will drop 8 cents tomorrow and diesel will drop by 12 cents. Gas prices started rising last week, soon after the conflict began, and Iran retaliated by closing the Strait of Hormuz to other nations.
We're following big news out of Ottawa, where another MP has crossed the floor to join the Liberals, moving Mark Carney's government within 2 seats of a majority. Speaking this morning,
it is a great pleasure. One of Canada's greatest constituency MPs. You represent a riding that is the size of Mexico and very down to earth. And we've had conversations about what we can do, both large and small.
Like with any complicated issue, it wasn't just one thing that happened. There are a variety of many things that have allowed me to really reflect on this, and I'm very thankful to be so warmly welcomed.
Those comments came right before the Prime Minister walked Elude into her first Liberal caucus meeting. She represents Nunavut, where she was greeted with hugs and applause. With more on this, we're joined by CTV's Jeremy Charon in Ottawa. Jeremy, what have we heard from both the Liberals and the NDP on this? We heard a little bit there, but curious about all the reaction.
Yeah, well, Michelle, as you just touched on, the hugs, the applause, the Liberals clearly happy about this. What is now becoming almost a familiar scene, the 4th time we've seen Prime Minister Mark Carney walk a newly minted Liberal MP into the caucus room to cheers and a big celebration among the Liberal Party. This is significant. It means the Liberals now have 170 seats in the House of Commons. They're one step closer to a majority. And we heard from several MPs on their way in this morning who were complimentary of MP Idlout and her decision to join the Liberal Party. She spoke, briefly this morning, but also issued a statement through the Liberal Party early this morning about her decision and how it is one that, is squarely to prioritize the needs of Canadians and the people of Nunavut. And she feels it will be easier to accomplish those things under Prime Minister Mark Carney and his Liberal Party. Now, the NDP party, of course, is not happy about this decision. We heard from interim leader Don Davies, who announced this move late last night, that he was very unhappy and who he reiterated the party's long-standing position that they don't believe MPs should be allowed to cross the floor like this, that rather, if they choose to leave a party and want to join another, they should leave it up to the voters to decide whether or not they could still have that support. So the NDP party down to just 6 seats in the House of Commons. They are clearly unhappy with this decision. The Liberals, on the other hand, who have 3 by-elections to worry about as well, are now one step closer to a majority in the House of Commons, and they are, of course, thrilled about that.
Can we talk a little bit about that? We've got these 3 by-elections next month, a couple of them in Toronto. What are the chances now looking for this Liberal majority?
Yeah, Michelle, look, Scarborough Southwest and University Rosedale, those are the 2 ridings, GTA ridings, that are part of the 3 by-elections to replace Bill Blair and to replace Chrystia Freeland. Those are 2 ridings that are considered Liberal strongholds, Liberal safe ridings, if you ask experts. That means the Liberals are in a very solid position to try and get a majority government. All they have to do now is win 2 out of these 3 by-elections. The third, of course, is in Terrebonne, a Quebec riding just outside of Montreal, that the Liberals won in the federal election by just 1 vote. The result of that election was annulled by the Supreme Court, and so here we are with a 3rd by-election. But all the Liberals need is to win 2 out of those 3 seats. And the fact that 2 of them are considered by most to be Liberal strongholds means, we could be just over a month away now from a Liberal majority government. So this is absolutely significant, this latest floor crossing, in that it makes the results of these 3 by-elections, or at least the results of 2 of these by-elections, a little more important, as in that they'll determine definitively whether we see this Liberal government achieve a majority or not.
Definitely shifts the landscape. CTV Jeremy Charon, live for us in a rainy Ottawa, just like here in Toronto. Thank you. Now, the city's new LRT lines could be moving a little bit faster as the TTC rolls out promised improvements to signal priority. While much of the new Line 5 is located underground, the portion between Don Valley and Kennedy stations is not, and that's meant some longer waits for LRTs stuck in surface traffic. The city says the first stage of signal priority is now in place on Line 5 and on Line 6, which runs entirely above ground on Finch West. That means trains will move through the intersections before left-turning vehicles, with more enhancements promised in the coming months. And for commuters on Line 6, as of Sunday, you'll no longer have to transfer to shuttle buses for service after 10 p.m. That is when the Finch West LRT will officially move to full operations until 1 a.m. It follows a month-long soft launch, which included nightly closures for maintenance. The TTC says trains will arrive every 6.5 minutes during weekday rush hours. They'll arrive every 10 minutes at all other times.
And a commute of a different kind is getting underway west of the city. A stretch of King Road is now shut down for the annual Salamander migration. The endangered Jefferson salamander spent most of their life underground. When spring arrives, they emerge at night and cross the road to breed in temporary ponds formed by runoff. The city's closed the road every year since 2012 to protect them from the process. Now, part of the King Road will remain closed until April 9th.
Well, no question it felt like spring yesterday. The final numbers are in, and here's a look at some of the daytime highs reached, including downtown Toronto, which in the end made it to 20 degrees, 23 degrees yesterday in Windsor. Now today, we are expecting it to be another mild one. It's obviously not quite as enjoyable for spending time outside. We've got heavy rain, we've got freezing rain to the north, and overnight tonight we get into some flurries. Look what's coming for Friday, another snowstorm potentially with a couple of centimeters expected this time. We're going to take you through this part of the forecast and the rest of your weekend after the break here on CTV News.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Okay, let's put the pleasant days behind us for a little bit because we have rain, lots of it. Then we're talking snow. There's a lot to get to.
Yeah, we've kind of had it good for almost like a week now, but over the next several days, things are going to change drastically.
At least it's mild enough that today's weather event for us here in Toronto is rain. For some, it's freezing rain, and in the coming days, we are bringing some snow back into the weather forecast. But even today's rain, not lovely for so many people. In fact, there are big concerns when it comes to this amount of rain and the melting that we've seen over the last week. That's contributing to the potential for flooding. We've been covering it on our newscast, and we are likely to continue to see ponding and pooling on roadways. It's also a good day to maybe avoid spending any time near riverbanks or perhaps even stay off trails in and around the city of Toronto and areas in the 905. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Here's what that rain looked like earlier this morning. So this was round one as the system was moving its way through the Whitby and Brooklyn areas. The rain coming down at a pretty good pace. As mentioned earlier, too, we also had thunderstorms this morning. That was anticipated, but those flashes of lightning, rumbles of thunder, enough to become Mother Nature's alarm clock and likely getting some people out of bed maybe a little earlier than originally planned. Here's where we stand as far as any weather watches, warnings, and advisories are concerned. There is an orange level rainfall warning in place for areas northwest of the GTA. This is where some of the heaviest rain is expected to fall. We did see a changeover back to a rainfall warning for areas south end of Muskoka, around Midland and Penetanguishene, and then in through the north end of Peterborough County, there could be some freezing rain for you as well. Widespread freezing rain, especially Bancroft, Ottawa, City of Montreal. This could end up being an historic ice storm, depending on how this all plays out. Hours of freezing rain expected in those parts of Ontario and Quebec. So it could be worse, is what I'm saying, for us here in the GTA. We are back into some moderate rainfall at this time, some heavy pockets now inching their way closer toward the Hamilton area. We have the risk of thunderstorms with us for the rest of this afternoon. Then the system tapers off. We get a bit of a break tomorrow. Here comes the next round. And yeah, this one looks like it's going to be a snow event for us on Friday. So we'll talk about that momentarily. Here's a look at roughly how much more rainfall we are looking at. Grand total expected to be anywhere from 20 to 40 millimeters of rain around the GTA. There's 8 p.m., so still quite unsettled in the Niagara area, but tapering off for us. Colder air moves in overnight tonight. We could see some flurries overnight and through the day on Thursday. And then that snow for Friday. It's going to move in about mid-morning. Could fall for a good portion of the day. And at this point, our models only take us to about the noon hour on Friday, but plan on roughly 5 to maybe 10 centimeters of snow Friday, depending on where you are. That could change, but that's how it's looking right now. Winds are going to pick up as we make our way into the day tomorrow. Those northwest winds, once again, bringing us the possibility of a few flurries. We're going to see how far our temperature can surge this afternoon. We're still at 3 degrees, but we're expecting to make it somewhere into the teens this afternoon. Overnight tonight, dipping below freezing, -1, and then tomorrow is going to feel a lot cooler with a daytime high of only +3. Just want to jump ahead to the weekend. Saturday right now looks not bad, but Sunday we are also monitoring for the possibility of snow or rain. That's the weather for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, if your car gets in an accident, you generally want it fixed right away. But now even more insurance companies are writing it off, even with minor damage.
A woman whose car was recently involved in a hit and run is now fighting simply to have the car repaired. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert.
Honestly, this has been a real nightmare trying to get this car repaired.
Teresa Baton of Mississauga says she parked her BMW sedan in front of her bank, went in to do some business, and when she came out, it had been sideswiped by another vehicle.
I walked over to my car and I could not believe how much damage was done to the front driver's side fender.
The car is a 2011 BMW 328i with 213,000 kilometers. Despite being a bit older, Baton says she recently spent $10,000 on repairs on the car, and it was in excellent condition. That's why she was shocked to be told by her insurance company it was considered a total loss and would be written off.
The first thing they want to do is write off my car. And I said, no, that's unacceptable.
Baton says she was presented with a settlement offer of $8,900, which she refused. After more than 2 months of negotiations, she's holding firm she wants her car fixed.
If my car was completely damaged and not drivable, then yes, that would make sense. But the car starts and it drives.
The Automotive Industries Association of Canada recently told CTV News cars are being deemed a total loss more often due to expensive parts and delays to get them. Repairs have also increased in price, and so have rental car costs. Safety systems using cameras, radar, and sensors are also expensive to replace.
Total loss is typically just the most economical way to settle the claim. It's just a mathematical decision.
Baton is with TD Insurance. When we reached out to TD, a spokesperson said claims are assessed individually based on the details and terms of the policy. This matter has been resolved after working directly with our client. TD told Baton it would now repair her car instead of writing it off, which was great news for her.
Thank you, CTV. My car is getting repaired. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. So excited.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
The Federal Housing Agency says Toronto fell behind much of the rest of the country when it came to building new units in 2025. That conclusion was shared by Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation in its spring housing supply report. Now, nationwide, construction was up 6% year over year to 259,000 units. Most major markets saw activity exceeding the 10-year average. Toronto, on the other hand, fell below its historical average and saw the smallest amount of housing built per capita among Canada's 7 largest regions. CMHC says the housing system faces ongoing headwinds from subdued demand, slower population growth, and cost pressures on potential homebuyers.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, a family favorite is returning to the Toronto stage. We'll have more on a reimagining of the classic tale Pinocchio when we come back. The Canadian Kennel Club has released its official list of the top 10 most popular dog breeds for 2025. Topping the list for the 32nd consecutive year is the Labrador Retriever. The Golden Retriever and German Shepherd follow closely behind. This year, the Poodle unseated the French Bulldog to reclaim 4th spot. And rounding out the top 10 are the Miniature Poodle, French Bulldog, Australian Shepherd, Havanese, King Charles Spaniel, Bernese Mountain Dog, and last but not least, the Shetland Sheepdog. Well, a family favorite is returning to the stage in Toronto just in time for March break.
As CTV's Pauline Chen tells us, it's a ballet version of the classic Pinocchio.
English choreographer Will Tuckett first created Pinocchio for the National Ballet of Canada 9 years ago, but the new version is a bit different, including 2 narrators.
Pinocchio is a very European story, and we thought let's put its feet firmly in Canada.
In fact, the production starts out with lumberjacks.
Male and female, but they're very much lumberjacks. And we've got some beaver that appear in it, and we've got a moose who spends a bit too much time at the bar. But there's a moose there, we have a Mountie.
But the traditional characters are very much there. Pinocchio, Geppetto, and the Blue Fairy, being danced for the first time by new principal dancer Beck-Ann Sisk.
I see her as the magical thread that sort of connects the whole story together. She is Pinocchio's conscience at times, and then she's also just there to encourage him to be kind, brave, and honest.
Sisk says the dancing, special effects, and more more make it a perfect introduction to ballet for youngsters.
Creative costumes, beautiful music. There's actors that speak on stage and sort of help narrate the whole story, so the kids are really going to understand what is happening.
What we tried to do was to make the Blue Fairy really the character of Jiminy Cricket.
There will even be an ASL interpreter at every performance.
And for families with special needs, there's an abbreviated performance of Act 2 in a relaxed setting on March 17th.
Pinocchio opens at the Four Seasons Performing Arts Centre on March 13th and runs through the 22nd. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Still to come, Team Canada looking to make history at the World Baseball Classic this afternoon. We'll have a preview of their game against Cuba when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
In sports, could the slumping Maple Leafs put an end to their losing streak, visiting their division rival Montreal Canadiens last night?
To get it out, Evans after it, Cowan back, Jake Evans scores!
It was again a tough outing for the Buds, giving up 2 goals in the first and unable to recover despite a second-period goal from William Nylander. Montreal taking the game 3-1, handing Toronto their 8th straight loss. They host the Anaheim Ducks tomorrow night.
And on the court, the Raptors are out to prove that they could compete with the top teams in the league, taking on the Houston Rockets.
Being effective in the minutes when KD doesn't play. Thompson with a 3.
It was close through most of the game, but the Rockets pulled away in the fourth quarter, going on to win 113-99. The Raptors take on the Pelicans in New Orleans tonight at 8.
And to the Diamond we go. The Blue Jays take on the New York Yankees today after playing the Atlanta Braves in Grapefruit League action.
And Jose Suarez is in. The first pitch is hit high and deep off the bat of Riley Terada. A Zokar back, and he'll run out of room.
The Jays were already up 2-0 in the bottom of the 5th inning when they added to their lead with a solo home run. Toronto would go up 4-0 before hitting a 3-run shot in the 7th as the Jays blanked the Braves 7-0. First pitch against New York tonight just after 6:30.
And it's a big day for Team Canada at the World Baseball Classic, a chance to advance to the knockout stage with a win tonight. Canada knocked off host Puerto Rico 3-2 in Pool A action last night and can advance to the quarterfinals for the first time with a win today. That would put them at the top of the pool. The game is set to kick off at 3 p.m. in San Juan. Coming up, soaking up the sun on Vancouver Island. We'll have more on a group of sea lions who've taken over a portion of a West Coast beach.
On the West Coast, a spectacle of nature is on display.
A group of sea lions is drawing crowds on a stretch of beach in Vancouver Island. CTV's Andrew Johnson has the story.
They've taken over this small beach, and the people who have come to take a closer look are thrilled.
I think it's pretty phenomenal.
Listening to that, who wouldn't be curious? What is making all that noise?
Just hanging out, talking to each other, being chubby and adorable.
They are indeed plump. Some of them can't even keep their eyes open.
These ones up here haven't moved. They're just zonked right out, and these ones are making a bunch of ruckus.
Ruckus, says one expert, is the specialty of these California sea lions.
When they arrive, it's almost like a biker gang has shown up for a convention. And sometimes they go back to the same spots, and sometimes they discover a new hangout.
This gang is here for the herring they intend to gobble up in large quantities.
They're just like sticks of butter to them. It's just full of fat. And if you're a male California sea lion, you're not watching your waist. You're actually hoping to put on as many pounds as you can, as fast as you can, because the whole goal is to get back to California looking super sexy and nice and big and able to hold a territory against other males.
Where the females, who stay closer to home, are waiting. Experts say the barking at the beach that's left even dogs speechless will last as long as the herring run is at its peak.
Amazing. We won the lotto. We live here.
And so will the spectacle for nature-loving Vancouver Islanders. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Deep Bay, BC.
It's that sound of the sea lions. I can't get that out of my head right now.
It's hilarious. I love it. They're a tourist attraction now. They don't seem to mind at all. Reminds us of San Francisco sea lions.
Absolutely, and it's such a unique part, the thing that happens in that part of Canada. So it's great to see. Today we are seeing a whole lot of rain outside our window, and we will be for the rest of at least the early afternoon, with improvement coming as the day goes on. So here's one more look at the satellite and radar. It is rain for the most part here in the GTA. Watching for the possibility of some embedded thunderstorms. Rainfall warnings all remain locked in place. We'll slowly see these come to an end into this evening. Overnight tonight, -1 degree is our forecast low. That's just cool enough for us to maybe see a few stray flurries here and there. And then tomorrow, it's a mostly cloudy day with a chance of flurries again. The measurable snow, though, is into the day on Friday. So plan on this arriving through the morning, continuing for a good portion of the day. Bit of a break on Saturday, and then back into some messy weather possibilities for Sunday. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, look quite cold again. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And that's it for CTV News. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison, the whole team here, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.